July 1977, Exxon senior scientist James Black stands up in front of the company's management committee and delivers a little presentation. Not the research team, the management committee, executives. And he tells them scientific consensus is clear that burning fossil fuels is increasing atmospheric CO2. The warming, it is human caused. And his words are, quote, man has a time window of 5 to 10 years before the need for hard decisions regarding changes in energy strategies become critical. They don't fire him. They commission more research. Exxon spends the next 5 years running one of the most sophisticated private research climate programs on Earth. They retrofit a supertanker with atmospheric monitoring equipment. They hire more scientists. They run models. And in 1982, they produce a confidential 40-page internal document labeled explicitly not to be distributed externally. It projects 2 to 3 degrees Celsius of warming from CO2 doubling. It identifies the risks to coastlines, agriculture, and water. Their own scientists, they got the science right. And around 1983, Exxon quietly winds down the climate research program. And in 1988, the same year, NASA's James Hansen is testifying before Congress, telling them that global warming is happening right then. Exxon helps found the Global Climate Coalition, whose explicit purpose is to challenge the scientific consensus. The company that confirmed the science is now funding an organization whose job it is to tell you that science is not settled. Harvard researchers Supran and Oreskes confirmed this in a 2017 peer-reviewed study. 187 internal Exxon documents analyzed against 36 years of public communications. Internally, climate change is real, it is human caused, and it is serious. Publicly, doubt, uncertainty. Let's look at both sides. Between 1998 and 2014, Exxon donated to at least 90 organizations working to spread that doubt. The 1998 industry coalition memo written down, sent between executives, stated the goal plainly. Victory will be achieved when scientific uncertainty becomes part of the conventional wisdom. They wrote it down. They said, victory will be achieved.
Perpetuating a lie. How do you sleep at night?
A bed made of money.
Have you seen Mad Men? I've been thinking a lot about Don Draper since I first read those Exxon documents. There's a scene in Mad Men where Don is in a room with Lucky Strike executives after the FTC has banned health claims in cigarette advertising. The campaign is dead, the client is panicking, and Don just reframes it.
But everybody else's tobacco's toasted.
No, everybody else's tobacco is poisonous. Lucky Strikes is toasted.
He turns the liability into an asset and he goes home. He sleeps fine. That is not satire. That is a documentary. So how do you do that? How do you read the 1977 James Black presentation, sign the checks to fund the Global Climate Coalition, run the advertorials, casting doubt on your own scientists' work, and go home to dinner? For what exactly? To buy another yacht? A slightly larger pool house? A third vacation villa in a place that will be underwater by the time your grandchildren are adults? Because here's the analogy. You've seen Hoarding, Buried Alive on TLC. People with compulsive hoarding disorders, they cannot stop accumulating things. Old newspapers, broken appliances, expired food, until the house is structurally uninhabitable. For some reason, it's a mental illness if you're poor. It's called capitalism and the American dream if you're rich. But let's be clear, these people are sick. There's something profoundly broken in you. If you can trade future generations' habitability for a slightly bigger number on a screen. These executives are hoarders. They cannot stop accumulating. And it's not their house that's getting buried. It is ours. And I want to be clear. I am furious about this. Geez, James, we couldn't tell. How people who do enormous harm convince themselves that they're good. So I went looking for a real answer to this question in a classic, maybe I can fix it if I understand it fashion, because being furious doesn't tell you how it happens. And I think understanding how it happens matters. The researchers who built the framework I'm about to walk you through, they were not studying corporate boardrooms. They were trying to answer a question that haunted the 20th century. How do ordinary, functional, non-monstrous people participate in systems of catastrophic harm? And how do they go home to dinner? In 1963, philosopher Hannah Arendt covered the Jerusalem trial of Adolf Eichmann, a senior officer who had coordinated the logistics of mass killing across occupied Europe during the Second World War. She expected a monster. What she found was a bureaucrat, a logistics manager, a man who spoke in cliches, who was proud of his organizational competence. He genuinely believed that following process absolved him of responsibility for where the process led. She coined the phrase that has defined moral philosophy ever since: the banality of evil. The conclusion was not that Eichmann was uniquely wicked. The conclusion was that the mechanisms that allowed him to function are not exotic. They are standard features of the human brain. Psychologist Stanley Milgram, running experiments that same year, was trying to understand the same phenomenon. He found that roughly 65% of ordinary American adults would administer what they believed were lethal electric shocks to strangers when an authority figure told them to continue. The saddest, regular people. The mechanism was simple: diffused responsibility. Someone else designed the experiment. Someone else gave the order. I just turned the dial. Albert Bandura spent the following decades systematizing this into a framework he called moral disengagement. Here's how I believe it operates in the boardrooms of the fossil fuel industry. Moral justification. You don't think about what you are destroying. You think about what you have built. And look, credit to where credit is due. The fossil fuel industry has heated homes, it's powered hospitals, it's moved food across continents. Life expectancy went up. But they believe they are not the villain. They are the reason this story is a good one. This is not entirely wrong. It's just being used as a hall pass for everything that has come after 1977. There's euphemistic labeling. Nobody in those boardrooms said, let's lie about the climate science. The documents say a communication strategy, stakeholder outreach, balanced perspectives, protecting consumer choice. When you relabel the action, you relabel your identity in relation to it. You're not a liar, you're a strategist. Then there's the displacement of responsibility. The executive who signed the check didn't write the op-ed. The op-ed writer didn't shut down the internal research program. The lawyer didn't brief the think tank. At every point in the chain, individual responsibility is small enough to feel deniable. The total harm is enormous. The personal contribution feels incremental. This is not accidental. It is a structural feature of how institutional wrongdoing sustains itself. It is exactly why the Nuremberg tribunals had to develop new legal frameworks for collective culpability. Then there's scale abstraction. The harm, it's statistical, it's distant, it's diffuse. It lands on people the executives will never meet, in places they will never visit. 7 to 8 million people die prematurely from fossil fuel air pollution every year. Every year. Over the 20 years of documented deliberate delay, the years after 1977, when the internal documents confirm that they knew, the cumulative death toll runs into the hundreds of millions. And look, I'm not going to draw historical comparison for you explicitly. I'm going to give you those numbers in the psychological framework developed by researchers studying Germany in the 1940s, and let you draw your own conclusions. What I will say is this. Hannah sat in that Jerusalem courtroom and concluded that Eichmann was not a monster. He was a man who had found enough psychological distance from the consequences of his work to sleep at night. She called it the banality of evil. And I think about that phrase every time I read those Exxon documents. Why am I telling you all of this? The machine we have been describing, it wasn't built by aliens. It was built by people. PR professionals, lawyers, policy analysts, scientists who signed names to work they knew was misleading, communications directors who knew exactly what victory will be achieved meant. Every one of them, they had a career, and every one of them made a choice about what to do with it. The energy transition is also being built by people. And those people, they need skills. They need project management, sales, engineering, finance, installation, grid operations, storage. The same skills the Doubt Factory spent 40 years using to protect the old industry are the skills that build the new one. I'm not asking you to be a martyr. I'm asking you to consider that the repair work is real. It is here and it pays well. And the people doing it will be in increasing demand for the next 30 years because the physics, they don't change. The economics, they already work. And the build out is not optional. Somebody has to do this work. The flat earthers, yeah, they're not going to do it. See Forbes? He ain't going to do it. The executives sleeping through their moral disengagement mechanisms are certainly not going to do it. But you could. That's what I map out in my free call. 30 minutes. The companies, the job categories, the entry points, the salary ranges, specific to where you are and what you do. I have a link to book a call in the show notes. I'm James Manzer. This is SolarPunkPro. And if you're just joining us, go back to episodes 43 and 44. First, that's the Flat Earth episode and the Forbes setup. This episode has been the machine beyond the piece. Now, go read the documents for yourself.